All right, welcome to today's class on Docusign 201. My name is Leah with Scott Leroy Marketing, and in today's class, I'll be taking you through more of the advanced tricks and tips on Docusign. The goal here is to make your Docusign experience a little more effective, a little more efficient. I want to increase your knowledge on how Docusign works with command so that you can use that even more effectively. All right, so the bulk of our class, of course, will be spent in Docusign today. However, Docusign and command work very closely together. So if you would join me to first log into your command account, I am logging into agent.kw.com. So agent.kw.com to log into command. Let's go ahead and put in our login and password and click sign in. All right, so we are logging into command, so make sure you're logged into agent.kw.com, and just to double check that your Docusign is linked properly to command to allow you to use the two together. If you want to follow me, to click on your name on the top right. Again, I'm just going to double check that your Docusign account is linked up properly to allow you to use the two together. So click your name on the top right of command, and then settings for us to check this real quick. All right. So again, so far all we've done is click our name on the top right of command to select settings. And we're just double checking here. We want to see that your Docusign account is connected. So your apps might be in a different order than mine are, because my connected apps will be at the top. So that'll kind of vary for everyone. However, the goal is to see Docusign listed under your connected apps. If it's not there, you might have to scroll down to see that under, forget the category, it's something like e-signature and productivity. All right, but you want to see that it's connected right here. And you'll also want to note what the email address is that it's linked with, because that's the one you'll need to log in with. So Docusign is another login and password that you will need to remember on a daily basis. It'll prompt you to log in the first time of each day for security purposes. So throw that in your notes, what your Docusign login and password is. All right, but if it is not currently connected, you can click Connect Account on the right-hand side. It'll be a green button here, teal, excuse me, and that'll allow you to link up your Docusign account. If you have any issues linking up Docusign with command, shoot us an email. We're more than happy to help troubleshoot that. That's support@scottleroymarketing.com. All right, so now that we've double checked our account, let's get rolling on creating this new opportunity in Docusign Room so I can show you these extra features here. Now, first of all, before I do get started on this, I'm just going to go ahead and send out the notes, and I'll pull that over onto my screen so you can see that as well. But I am just dropping the notes and tips guide in the Zoom chat. If you want to grab that now or after class. All right, just a couple things to talk to you guys about on here before we get started. So first of all, if you need to leave early in today's class, no worries. I will have the new Docusign 201 class updated at the very top here. Okay, so I'll go ahead and take out the word new, and after today's class, I'll link it here. So if you do need to leave, don't worry about it. The class is recorded. You can view it here. With that being said, if you have not watched the Docusign 101 class quite yet, okay, that is listed here. I would highly recommend starting with the Docusign 101 class, which was just taught last week, okay, because that'll give you all the basics that you need to know about Docusign. Today's Docusign 201 class will assume that you've already learned the basics in Docusign, okay? So just a heads up, if you've not taken the 101 class, I would highly recommend that before participating in this 201 class. Outside of this, just a heads up, so these notes at the top here, these are written notes. So these are steps on how to do a transaction in command with Docusign. Very helpful, steps 1 through 10 on how that workflow works. All right, and I'll overview that today, but it's more heavily focused on in the Docusign 101 class. But just a heads up, I do have, these are quick tip videos. So written notes at the top and then quick tip videos on the bottom here. So these are 10 to 15 minute videos that kind of break up the Docusign classes to show you further tips and tricks, again, in shorter increments. So just wanted to share that with you guys. I'll be referencing that as we go along here. But again, today's class will be a little quicker paced and will not go over the basics quite as much. All right, so if you'd like to join me, I'm going to come on over to the contact section of Command. Okay, so let's talk about the general workflow really quickly on how to start your opportunity in Command first to then create your Docusign room. Okay, this is something that is just so important that you guys understand. I want to make sure that's crystal clear, even if you came to the Docusign 101 class. All right, so it's really important that anytime you are starting a new transaction, right, and you need a new Docusign room, you need to be starting those transactions in Command specifically. You do not want to be going to Docusign directly to be creating your Docusign room because the system won't link up together that way. Okay, so again, the general workflow is on the notes and tips guide that I sent you guys. So that is the very top one. And I'm going to briefly talk about this now. But this will be the very top link on these notes here. If you'd like to open that as well, I'll drop it in the chat. But this will just be steps 1 through 10, how to start a transaction in Command with Docusign. All right, that's in the chat separately. And of course, it's the very first link on the tips guide. All right, so the very first step is we always have our contact added to our database. So whether that contact is already in your database, or you need to click add contact on the top right, right? You can either add your contact or search for your contact to go ahead and pull that up right away. I'm just going to add a quick contact here and an email address. So if you don't already have a practice contact in your account, I would highly suggest adding that in as yourself, again, so you can see what it looks like when you receive things from the system. So either search for that test contact, or you can add the contact on the top right to go ahead and create that contact right away. Oh, filters on. All right, so I'm just searching for my contact to pull that open. All right, so whether your contact's currently in your database or you need to add that contact, that will always be the first step to then create an opportunity for that client. All right, so on the right-hand side, that's where we'll see that opportunities option. Now this is step 2, probably 3 on the notes. All right, we need to create that opportunity. Okay, so I would always recommend creating the opportunity from the contact record itself, because that will allow you to view all opportunities that you've created for that contact, especially if they go to buy multiple properties with you, whether they're an investment client or they're going to sell their home and buy the next home. You would always be able to see all opportunities for that client right on the right-hand side of that contact record. Now, just to make this clear, okay, you want to be creating an opportunity anytime you have an opportunity for a sale, okay, and you want to be creating that based on the property that you are selling. So, for example, if you are representing a client who is selling their home with you and then buying the next home, that's going to be 2 different opportunities, 2 different Docusign rooms, because it's 2 different properties. Right, 2 separate transactions. So you'll always have a different opportunity in Docusign room with each transaction that you sell. So even if it's the same client, if it's a different property, we have a separate opportunity. Okay, and I'll go into that further to make that more clear for you guys. If you have any questions, of course, let me know. But even like in a dual agency situation, right, if you are representing both the listing side and the buying side, okay, that's actually going to be 2 different opportunities as well. And if you ever have these weird situations like dual agency or anything like that, that you have any questions on how to be handling these opportunities, feel free to shoot me an email anytime. Again, I'll put my email in the chat. It's support@scottleroymarketing.com. If you have any very specific opportunities or Docusign questions, I'm happy to take a look at that directly. So you can put attention, my name in the subject, And that is Leah, L-E-A-H, and that'll come to me directly. All right, so I'm going to click on Create Opportunity here on the top right. And I'm just going to fill out the 3 main fields that I have to fill out to continue. Okay, so there's 3 main fields you have to fill out to continue. That is the opportunity type. So that's where we're selecting, is this going on my listing pipeline, buying pipeline, or my lease pipeline here? So I'll do listing just for today's class, but listing and buyer opportunities, it'll be the same concept, so you can utilize either one. So opportunity type, that's the first one we need to pay attention to. Client, we always want to pay attention here, obviously important, but the client would have to be in your database first to create an opportunity with them, right? So if this client does have a co-seller on the transaction, so if there's a spouse as well, you would want to add them separately to your contact database. So you would have the husband, let's say, added as one contact in your database, and then you'll have the other contact, the spouse, added as a separate contact, so you can easily add them as a co-seller here. So you can't add contacts here, but it will search your contact database. So you can go ahead and search to go ahead and select that right away. Just the most random duo you could possibly think of, but we'll roll with it. All right, the third and final field that we absolutely have to do something with is this commission rate field. Okay, and that'll just be that 3%. So it's just asking about your side of the transaction. And just go ahead and put in what you normally charge. You know, if they haggle you down or anything rude like that, you can always change it at that time. But for now, we're just putting on your side of the transaction. So again, those 3 fields that we just filled in were opportunity type. We pay attention to the client field and the commission rate. And then you can click create and get on your way into Docusign right away. Now, if you guys have any other questions on any of these other fields, please feel free to drop that in the chat. I'm happy to explain that. That is more heavily gone over in the Docusign 101 class and opportunities class. But just a heads up, if you have any questions on those fields, feel free to let me know. And I click create on the bottom. So you can see how you can really fly through creating an opportunity, right? Because we really just need to focus on those 3 main fields there. And then you have that opportunity created, which is where we always want to be. We always want to be accessing Docusign from this opportunity. Good questions in the chat. Thank you for dropping those in. Yes, you can change the commission rate. So if that's incorrect or it changes, I'll show you where you can change most information here. For the rental question, so Karen, I'll show you that in 1 second. For rental, listing commission is a flat rate. I have heard that question before. So as opposed to percentage, right? Because if your commission, you can go ahead and put in like your flat rate if you're receiving that $200 from the rental or whatever the case may be. If you have further questions on that, Crystal, I'd be happy to check into that. And I do have a specific video for rental opportunities that would help with that as well. I will grab that in just a moment here. All right, so now that we've created that opportunity, let's go ahead and click on the opportunity name to open that right away. So I simply clicked on the opportunity name to open up the details immediately. All right, so what you need to know here. First of all of this information, anything in the details here will autofill into Docusign onto all of your forms. So how Docusign works, okay, with contacts, for example, Docusign works with the command contacts directly. So you'll see that your contacts are at the top of the opportunity here. You'll see that you can select from listings at the top as well. If you selected a listing opportunity only, okay, you won't have this option if it's a buyer opportunity, right? But listing opportunities will show that. If you are representing a buyer opportunity or a buyer rather, you can click the pencil icon to the right of any of these boxes to update that information. So especially with the question from Karen, great question. How do I update the commission rate if I already put that in? That'll be under general information here. So you can click the pencil icon. And that will allow you to update things like the opportunity name, right? Because typically the opportunity name, you want to go ahead and add in the property address if you have that. Okay, of course, if you don't, if you're representing the buyer, you wouldn't know the property address quite yet, but you can update the opportunity name from here. You can also update, this is where on the very bottom, that's where that commission rate is. So you can update that, any of that from here. If you found out later on there was a co-seller, for example, as well, you can actually add that spouse right from here as well. So if you need to add an additional spouse to the transaction, you can click on that pencil icon. However, there's just a heads up, you are only adding 2 contacts, a max of 2 contacts to an opportunity. If you do have a third or fourth person signing a form, that can be added directly to Docusign. And I can mention that further. Lease opportunities. I'm just putting in the chat, Karen Ray, or I'm sorry, Karen, I believe it was Crystal who asked about it. Crystal, I've just put in the chat a quick tip video on lease opportunities. That should help you there if you'd like to save that for after class. But of course, if you have further questions on that, shoot me an email. I'm more than happy to help. Yes, so whatever name is displaying right here for your contacts, that is the name that is specifically going to be pulled into Docusign. So if they need to sign by their legal name, you can, put that in here. I can show you as well. So this is Victoria's question. Is there a way for the legal name on the screen to be the one that links with Docusign? So the answer is yes, that the contacts in here, exactly how their name displays and their email displays, that will pull directly into Docusign, which you'll see actually next when we do that from the document section here. You can always change their signing name as well if they need to sign, with an LLC or a different name. So I can show you that as we go into Docusign. I'll make note of that. All right, so if you could join me on the Documents tab, I'm going to share a pretty cool feature that just recently launched, I would say in the last 3 months here. But just so you guys know, at this point, all we would need to do to get into Docusign, as you most likely know, is click Start a Transaction on the right-hand side to go into Docusign right away. Interesting. Victoria, I might need to check into that for you. If you'd like to shoot me an email after class. It sounds like it's more a specific field on the form, so I can check on the specific form for you. I'm just dropping my email and name in the chat again, so you can shoot me an email with that if you don't mind. I'd be happy to take a look at your account. Good question. All right, so before we go into Docusign, right, by clicking Start a Transaction. So first, don't do that yet. All right, let me show you this really cool new feature that has recently launched to see if it's available in your account. So I'm in the Documents tab of my opportunity. And as you guys know, as I've mentioned, and don't do this yet, but we would click Start a Transaction to go to our Docusign room right away. That's how we create our Docusign rooms. It's super important that you use the specific workflow that we first added a contact to our database. Second, created the opportunity in command. And third, now we click from the Documents tab, Start a Transaction. Don't do that yet, but that will then create the Docusign room and link that properly to your opportunity. If there's not a way to do that in reverse, right? So we don't want to be creating our Docusign rooms in Docusign itself. We always want to use the specific workflow. If you have questions on that, of course, let me know. All right, but again, this new exciting feature that KW just launched will allow your forms, the required forms, to automatically be added to your Docusign room when you go to initially create the room. Okay. So let me show you how it works. We'll see if that is available in your Market Center, because this is set up by your Market Center staff, and this is a very new feature, right? So if you are Market Center staff and need steps on this, feel free to shoot us an email. I'll send that over to you. But this is what you would need to do to autofill those forms. So from the Documents tab, you might already have a checklist displaying. However, if your Market Center has multiple checklists on the left-hand side, and these are compliance checklists to tell you which forms that you need to be in compliance and to get your commission check, right? On the left-hand side, you can either click Pick Checklist Type, or you might already just see a checklist displaying, and that's fine too. And again, these checklists on the left-hand side, what this is doing, this is showing you all the forms that you are required to have in each stage of the listing or buyer transaction, right? So in this case, listed, under contract, and closed are my options on the left-hand side. Now this is set up by your Market Center staff, so your checklist will of course be different than mine, but same concept here. So what this new feature is, any forms that have this blue teal DS next to it, okay, stands for Docusign. That means that once I click on Start a Transaction, Docusign will automatically pull these forms into my Docusign room specifically. So now this is set up by your office staff. So if these DSs aren't there for you, okay, no worries, nothing's wrong with your account. It's just your office staff is still working on setting up this feature. But let me show you now what it does. So since I've picked the checklist first, right, I have to pick the checklist first and then click Start a Transaction in order for this feature to work. So KW has these very specific workflows for these features right now. It doesn't work in reverse. So pick checklist first, then now that we click Start a Transaction and go to Docusign, we should see those forms automatically display in my Docusign room. So as I mentioned, it does make you log in the first time that you enter Docusign every day. It's for security purposes. That does mean it's another login that you'll need to remember. And that takes me into my Docusign room here where I see all those forms automatically displaying, right? These are all the forms that were marked with that TLDS, and that means that Docusign automatically pulled in those forms. So this is great because it's a great time saver, right? Now I have the forms already in here and I can just go ahead and click to start editing. All right, if you are office staff on this call and would like instructions on how to set that up for your Market Center, feel free to let us know. Shoot us an email, support@scottleroymarketing.com. I can send over steps. Okay, so even if you don't have this feature, right, the forms didn't come in, no problem. Okay, all you'll just need to do is instead come up to Add on the top right to add your forms from the Docusign Forms section directly. Okay, so clicking Add on the top right and coming to Docusign Forms, that will give you access to all of your interactive board forms, meaning all of these forms in your library in here are automatically fillable. You can automatically click to once you pull them into your room. Right, so you can search the groups and the libraries on the left-hand side, click the check boxes and click Add Selected to add in your forms. And obviously, right, this is pretty quick going through the basics. If you still, are working on trying to understand how to get access to your forms, how to fill out a fillable form and send for e-signature, right? Those are all things in the Docusign 101 class. And I have a 30-minute overview I'll shoot you guys as well. All right, but sorry, I know this is a little fast, just to let you know, it's because we're going to be focusing on more advanced features. The things I'm covering quickly here are all covered in the Docusign 101 class. But of course, super important that you feel comfortable accessing your forms. So if you have any issues with that, let me know. I'm more than happy to take a look at your account. Again, support@scottleroymarketing.com. Attention, my name, which is Leah. All right, so now that we are in here, of course, just an overview. If you do need to edit any of these forms that were pulled in, it's as easy as clicking to open that to start typing. All right, so once that opens, you'll be able to click to start typing in any of these sections. Now, what I wanted to show you guys, now that I've opened it, is the information that autofills over. So we're going to talk for a brief moment here about how autofilling works in Docusign, so you can really use that to your advantage. So I'll see my client's contact information pulling over from command. That pulled over from command. Right, your brokerage information will pull over from the white pages. So your contact information and your brokerage information will autofill, and your client's contact information. The property details will also autofill as long as you had that updated in your command opportunity. So let's kind of tear that open a little bit. All right, so let's say when I initially got this Docusign room, I didn't have the property address, how can I add that back in so it autofills on all of my rooms? All right, so I just want to explain to you guys real quick how the command opportunity works with the details tab with the Docusign room. So you can just watch on my screen if you would like, because I am switching back to KW command to the details tab. Okay, because I'm going to show you how this will work. And in a second, it will load and it will let you know which information has already synced to Docusign. It might already be loaded on your screen. You'll see check marks next to any information. There we go. That has synced over to Docusign already. So you can update that information and then click sync transaction if needed. So for example, let's say I, got the property and I now know the listing address. I can click select from listings here to actually link up the property information to autofill on all of my forms. Now, this will only be if the listing is live, and you only have this option if you're working with a listing opportunity. So if you're working with a buyer opportunity, no worries. You'll just want to click on the pencil icon next to property to go ahead and put that information in manually. So buyer opportunities, you can again just click the pencil icon here to add the property. If you're representing a listing, you will have this option to select from listings. So this searches the KWLS 2.0, all right? So in theory, your listing would need to be live on the MLS first, and then it would allow you to come in here and select that property. On the top right, so in case it'll default to only your listing. So in theory, you should see your listings right here. However, just a heads up, if you aren't seeing your listings display, you can change only my listings to all listings. And chances are you'd be able to search for your listing right away. KW is just working on getting everyone's listings to display under only my listings. But 9 times out of 10, even if you don't see them under only my listings, you can search them under all listings. So I click select next to one of those properties in there. You can just do any of them. No one will know. You can select any of them just to see how this works. And I'll see the property address updates at the top, as well as the property information here. And I can see that it's been edited, so this information is not currently synced to Docusign. All right, so any information, let's say my client changes their email address, right? Or their name is incorrect. If I update that in command, any of my contacts information as well, and I come in here and click sync transaction, okay, anything that's showing as edited here, or if I edited my client's email address and click sync transaction, that will sync from command over to Docusign to autofill on all of your forms. Now, this is just a one-way sync, okay? So it only goes from the opportunity to the Docusign room, just a heads up, but that would allow you to sync right from here the opportunity to that Docusign room. I think I would just need to refresh. There we go. And there you can see it synced. Okay, so now if I come to the Documents tab of my Docusign room, and again, sorry to be switching tabs on you guys. I don't mean to throw you for a loop here, but just to show you what we just did, you can keep watching on my screen. First of all, I can see the property address pulled over to the Docusign room here. And so now if I click on any one of these forms in my Docusign room, I should see the property address autofilling on the form. And like magic, there it is. All right, so just to make it clear how the autofilling works, and if you are to update, the property address here on one of your forms, that would update it on all of your forms as well. If you have any questions on how autofilling works, feel free to drop that in the chat, or you can shoot me an email and I'd be more than happy to help with that. So now what I want to talk about is how to create templates from these forms. So fairly new feature, I would say in the last 6 months, year, I don't know, all my days are coming together, but newer feature, KW now allows you to create templates from your interactive forms. So these fillable forms here. So the idea is that you can pre-fill these forms, and then whenever you have a transaction that requires that form, you can pull in that template instead that would have a lot of pre-filled data on it to help save you time. So let's take a look at how you would set that up, how you would apply that to your Docusign room. India, how do you autofill your agent information for contracts? In theory, your agent information should autofill from the white pages automatically. So whenever you are adding a contract, it should add your information in automatically as long as you created the opportunity and then created the Docusign room from there. If it is not doing that, first of all, I'd be happy to take a look to see what might be blocking that. But if it's not, I'm also going to show you on these templates how you can maybe pull in a contract to create that template to have your information autofill every time. So India, I'm happy to take a look deeper if you'd like to shoot me an email after class. All right, so let's take a look at how we create these templates. Let's go to My Docs first. So if you can join me, I am in Docusign after switching tabs on you a couple times. All right, so I am back in Docusign. I'm in the My Docs tab. And now the newer feature is this form templates option that's right under My Docs here. So the lower white toolbar. And yours will probably be empty if you've never used this feature, and that's totally normal. So again, these steps are My Docs, form templates, create form template on the top right. So we are creating the form template. So what we need to do first is to find the form we want to create a template from. Ones that I see that are very beneficial to create templates for are listing agreements and buyer agency agreements, in case you'd like to start there to pull that in. But of course, this can be used with any form that is in your account. You can pre-fill information on the form and pull in that pre-filled template to save you time. So pretty cool. So first thing to note, the first drop down on our screen, just a heads up, you have the option for Docusign form groups or libraries. The form groups are created by your Market Center staff and would in theory show you things like a listing file or sales file. And these are created by your Market Center staff, so yours will look different than mine. All right, but depending on what you select in that top drop down, so whether you're selecting from your groups or from your form library here, just a heads up, that'll change what you're seeing in that second drop down. So all your forms in theory should be included in both. However, the Docusign Forms library is clearly showing you, your MLS forms, your Market Center forms, and your board forms, not categorized in any way. Okay, so depending on how you want to search for that, we'll go ahead and select that here. So select the two drop downs. You can then search. I know it takes a little bit to get used to searching for your forms. Where are they in my folders? So try not to get frustrated with that. That does come with some time to learn the navigation of where your forms are. But this way too, if you create templates of the primary forms that you need for every transaction, you can always just add those primary forms to make it easier for you to find. So I can go ahead and select the form I want to create a template for and click Use. All right, so this is the template of the form. You can see I can click on any field to start editing it. So the idea here in creating these templates are, all right, what information on a listing agreement or whatever form you brought in is pretty much on every single form that I write, right? That's the information that you want to go ahead and put in. Of course, when you pull in this form to an actual Docusign room for a real transaction, anything we're writing in here will be changeable. So it's not set in stone. So basically, if you put XYZ information on most of your listing agreements, I would go ahead and put that in because of course it can always be removed once you bring that in for a real transaction. So filling in information like your brokerage information, if you select a certain radio dot or checkbox every time for a certain section, go ahead and update that. You know, if you write NA, I know a lot of these forms, I feel like I'm writing NA over and over again for certain fields, right? You can go ahead and have that pre-populate, so you don't have to waste time doing that. So again, we're just going through and getting an idea here of what we use on most forms, right? What is the information we normally put here, because that will be able to be changed once you bring it into a template, or into a room rather. And the cool thing too is you can make multiple templates from the same form. So for example, let's just say, in the example of a listing agreement, let's say I want to create a separate template for cash deals versus you know, finance deals. So I could have two templates from the same form, and I can just name those differently. So on the top left, you'll notice a pencil icon next to the form name. And I would always recommend renaming that, though I tend to forget. All right, so on the top left, maybe I want to name this listing agreement dash cash deals or financed, right? Or whatever, you know, the specific situation would be that you would use this template. Click the check mark to the right of that new form name. And obviously you'll probably need more time to complete an actual template. Okay, but I'll show you how to get back here, of course. But let me show you, if you could just click save and close for now on the top right, you can come back and edit this and I'll show you how. All right, but what I want to show you, just for time restraint reasons, is how to now apply this template to your Docusign room. So click save on the top right, and that should show you now your template right from here. So you can easily come back, and if you'd like to jot down notes how we got here again, first of all, I'll put the link in the Zoom chat. Just if someone is behind, you can just click and that'll take you right to where we are. However, again, if you'd like to jot down notes, we are in realestate.docusign.com. So that's a good note just to start out with, right? We don't want to be logging into docusign.com directly. We always want to go to realestate.docusign.com. So realestate.docusign.com, and then my docs on the top. Form templates. Edit. Okay, so assuming you'll need to come back and finish up your form, you can edit that. And one more cool thing to note on here. So especially in the, right, we talked about how you can create multiple templates of the same form if there's different situations, like different situations for a listing agreement or so forth. You can actually copy an existing template. So, all right, let's say I got that listing agreement, that template all created. Well, now I can come in and actually copy that. So it'll make it an exact copy. So I can go in and just tweak the information that would be, you know, for general for a cash deal instead. So that saves me a lot of time, so I can save it that way. All right, so just a heads up, you can copy these templates as well, so you can make quick changes and save those. All right, let's talk about applying these form templates to our Docusign room. So if you join me, I'm going to go back to my Docusign room. You can do that from the Rooms tab up here, or from the dashboard. We'll show you your most recently used rooms. So either one, dashboard or rooms, you can just go on into the Docusign room we're working on here. And if you could join me in the Documents tab of your Docusign room. Okay, there's two ways that you can add in templates. All right, the first way, so if you don't have the form already in your room, okay, so the first way I'm going to show you is if the form is not currently in your Docusign room, you can come up to Add on the top right. And this will be the same steps as you use to normally add forms to your Docusign room. So we come up to Add on the top right, select Docusign Forms. Right, because if you want to edit any of your forms, that always has to be brought into a room first. So now I do need to navigate. There's not like a template section quite yet. Hoping KW will roll that out soon here, that, you know, it'll just say my template, so you can click and easily find it. However, in the meantime, what you'll want to do is come on over to the folder that that form sits in. So we're just trying to locate that form we created in the templates. And if it says in use, okay, hold tight, because I'll show you how to apply the template to forms that are already in your room if it's showing in use. However, if the form is not currently in your Docusign room, you'll see when I check these two boxes, for example, I have a template created for this form, but I do not for this form. So you can see the forms that I have templates for will have this drop-down menu to allow you to actually select that template. So when you're adding the selected form, it will apply that template immediately. Okay. So again, if you are adding that form, you'll just want to reference this drop-down. And if you have multiple templates from that same form, you would see all of those from this drop-down to click Add Selected. All right, so let's talk about those. So that showed you how to add those templates to your Docusign room if they are not currently in your room. So if you tried to do those steps and you saw that said in use, right, it won't let you add a second copy of that form. However, if the form is already in your room, all you need to do is right click on the form. And if and only if you have a form template created, you'll have the option to apply form template. Okay, so this option does not display at all on forms. Like I don't have a template for this form, for example. So you can see I don't have that option. So you'll only have this apply form template option if you have the form template already created. So you can see I clearly practice with the listing agreement a lot. So I can see if I try to apply that, it's asking me, okay, which listing agreement template do you want to use? So I can select that, click apply. And that applies all the information that was on the template directly to my listing agreement. Okay, so it pre-fills that information in. So great time saver for you guys to utilize. Let me know if you have any questions on that. But these are creating templates from your interactive forms, meaning the forms that are automatically fillable. So now what I'm going to show you guys is how it works with editing PDFs in Docusign. Okay, so now what we've talked about so far, right? These are dealing with your interactive forms, meaning you'll notice if you open any one of these forms, you can automatically start typing in them. On the interactive forms as well, initial boxes and signature fields will automatically display on any fillable form, right? Any form that you can click to start typing in. The initial boxes and signature fields will automatically display once we add this form to an envelope, okay, and add the recipients. And again, Docusign 101 walks you through that, and I'll share a 30-minute overview too. All right, but what we're going to talk about now is adding PDFs, okay? And for PDFs, signature and initial fields do not automatically display. So let's talk about when we would be using PDFs, let's say, and why this is great that Docusign allows you to edit PDFs. So let's say the agent on the other side, they send you the contract signed by their clients, right? And that's a PDF, right? They sent it to you via email. So it was attached as a PDF to your email. All right, what you can do is save that to your computer. So you saved it first from the attachment to your email. So it's on your computer. We can now add that form, that PDF, right? And typically PDFs are not editable, which I'll show you. But you can now add that PDF to your Docusign room to actually add text boxes to make it editable, add signature fields, initial fields, so that your clients can electronically sign PDFs as well. All right, so on the top right, I'm clicking on add. In this case, we'll search our computer. So in theory here, we would have that PDF saved to your computer already. If you have a PDF that you'd like to go ahead and utilize just to practice on, feel free, or you can just watch on my screen too, and that's totally fine. All right, so I am searching my computer, right? So again, especially if you got emailed the offer, let's say, and it was a PDF attached, you want to save that to your computer first. Now I'm searching my computer to go ahead and double click and add that PDF in. And we're going to talk more about these icons right here because it really comes into play with signed forms. But just note that the PDF here is a totally different icon than these blue form icons. Any of these icons or any of the forms that have this blue form icon mean that it's automatically editable. I can open this form and start typing right away versus a PDF, I won't be able to. So if I click on the PDF, by nature, a PDF is not editable. So I cannot click to start editing here. However, I can bring this PDF into an envelope in order to make edits to that. So let's talk more about that. So now, first of all, if you are newer to Docusign, envelopes are probably a newer concept for you. You will create an envelope each time that you want to send forms for electronic signature. You can create an envelope to send one form or multiple forms at a time to go ahead and get those electronically signed. But it's kind of like snail mail here, right? If you were going to send those off, what would be the first thing you do? Grab an envelope, right? So to show you how to do that, you can create an envelope in a couple different ways. All right, but since I have this form open here, I'll go ahead and click on Document Actions on the very top. And you'll see a couple things here that you might want to note. You know, you can split PDFs from here, which is very cool. So if you have, let's say you scanned in your entire listing file and it's all one big PDF, you can split those into individual forms, and that the split option only exists for PDFs, just a heads up. Okay, but outside of that, let's talk about the create envelope option. So I opened up the PDF, clicked on the document actions, and clicked create envelope. Okay, pulling the PDF into an envelope, A, will allow us to send this for signatures, and B will allow us to edit the PDF. So add text fields, add signature fields, you name it. So now that I'm in the envelope here, first of all, at the very top, I would recommend naming your envelope. So this makes it really helpful once you go to send multiple envelopes. And what that means is once you send forms to your clients multiple times during a transaction, it's really helpful to see the envelope name here to know, okay, this was the offer to purchase. Right, so I always like to kind of put in, the envelope name. This is just indicating to you as the agent. I'll show you where this pops up. It's just on the envelopes tab, so you can easily see which forms were sent in each envelope. Now in this add documents, right, I already have the document I need, but I can, of course, add more room docs here if need be. But the main thing you need to be doing here is adding the recipients. Okay, so if nothing else, we're adding recipients here. We'll click on add recipient. And this probably, if you've done this a couple times, you'll notice this looks a little different, right? It's missing one of the options. Main thing to know is anytime you're clicking add recipients, you typically always want to select that top option to add them to sign. So I'm going to click on room participants because that's going to show me anyone that I currently have in the details of my Docusign room, right, which pulled over from my command database, right? So that's how the contacts work in command with Docusign. You'll see this with interactive forms too, right? You'll see that contact information automatically pulling over. So if that email was correct, this is pulling from command, so you can update it there and click sync transaction to pull that over again correctly. Now, if it's a form that you need to sign, you can also add yourself. Okay, please note, if you don't need to sign the form, you do not need to add yourself as the agent, and you can click add selected. All right, so a lot of times you may not be adding yourself to the envelope, and that's totally normal. You're only adding yourself if you need to sign that. So now I'll see my clients are added in. I can see that they need to sign here. Now on the left-hand side, so just something cool to note, let's talk about these ones on the left-hand side. All right, so what these ones indicate is when I click send, all of these people will receive the document at the same exact time. All right, but let's talk about a situation. Let's say I want my mortgage provider or my transaction coordinator or admin to automatically be notified and receive the fully signed form once that's signed, right? If you want the mortgage provider to automatically receive the fully executed offer once you get that back. Let me show you how you would add that in. So in this case, I'll click on Add Recipient. And we'll add by email address in this case, right? Because they're just not in my Docusign room already. So room participants, you're always using that option for your clients. If I'm trying to add someone, you know, kind of outside of Docusign to receive a copy of this, I can select the email address option to go ahead and add in the mortgage provider, the transaction coordinator, whoever you would like to receive this. So here's where things really get interesting. All right, so first of all, now I'm going to change the 1 on the left-hand side to a 2. So what that will mean is all the people marked with a 1 will receive the form at the same time, and they'll be prompted to sign. Then what will happen is it will then send that version of the form to the person marked as a 2. All right, but I need to change this because, right, my mortgage provider or transaction coordinator, they don't need to actually sign this, right? They just need to receive a copy. So you want to change that to receives a copy and a 2. And again, what would happen now is when I click send, it'll send to all of these people to sign. And only once they have completed their action, only once they've signed, would the person marked as a 2 receive a copy. It's a pretty cool feature. If you have any questions on that, let me know. That was not a feature in .loop, so I do like that Docusign feature quite a bit, and I think you can use that very beneficially. All right, and now let's click on next on the top right. And just a heads up, I know we're approaching 2 o'clock here. I will probably go about 10 to 15 minutes over, so 2:15 will probably be the end time. If you do need to head out, just a heads up, I will share out the notes again, so you have access to the class recorded. So throwing this in the chat for you guys, these are just the same notes I sent out earlier, but just again, so you have access, this will be the Docusign 201 class. I'll update that with today's date, 11/11. So that should be a few hours later today. It just takes a while to upload, and then you can have the recorded class as well. You do have 10, 15 minutes to stick around. That would be great. This is some great beneficial information for you. Okay, so now that I have pulled the form into my envelope, right? All I did was click on next from that last screen, and I pulled it into the envelope here. All right, and because it's a PDF, the initials and signature fields will not automatically display. So if you receive a PDF, let's say you receive the contract, it's signed by the buyers, all right, and you need to now send it to your seller clients to electronically sign. All right, we'll need to add in the initial boxes on the bottom here in order for them to actually sign that. So things to note here on the top left, you'll note each one of your clients with a separate correlating color. So notice that dot right there. And you can notice, right, since I have this client selected, all my fields are purple. If I select another client, it turns all the fields yellow, right, or their correlated color. That is indicating to you, okay, which client would be able to initial, right? The yellow client, this client. So what I can do is I can go ahead and click on initial. It'll start following my mouse, and I can just simply click to drop that. So line it up on your form and click to drop. All right, so now I need to do the same thing for my other client to be able to sign, right? So now so far this client is able to sign. I'm going to go ahead and switch that over to my other client to have them go ahead and initial the form as well. Okay, so now I can see that both my clients can sign. So in theory, right, you can go through and do that for each and every field. Initial field here, go ahead and add that for each client. That's a little tedious, right? Especially if you're working on an offer like I am that has 13 dang pages. All right, so let me show you a quick workaround. This is kind of next level, but in case this helps you, you can actually copy and paste fields down the form as well, which I love. I love shortcuts. So just to show you how to do that, you can actually click and hold your mouse to draw a rectangle around the 2 fields that you want to copy. And you'll see it kind of highlights the whole thing blue, indicating that those fields are selected. Then on my keyboard, I can select Command C or Control C. Sorry, Control C is PC users. Command C will be Mac users. All right, Control C as in cat, or C as in copy, rather. All right, so I'm copying those. So far what I've done is I clicked, drag my mouse around it, it'll select it. Now Control C on my mouse, if you have a PC, or Command C for Mac users. And now I'm going to go down to the next set of fields and kind of click on wherever you want to drop it. This can be a little fickle, but just kind of click on wherever you'd like to drop it. And we're going to do Control V as in Victor, or Command V if you are a Mac user like me. All right, and that is the shortcut to paste. So Control C for copy, that is the shortcut to copy, and then Control V as in Victor, that is the shortcut to paste. So just switch out Command if you're a Mac user. All right, so now I could go through the bottom of every page, click where I want to drop it, and paste. All right, and if it kind of pastes funky, like off-centered or something, you can always just click to drag that around. And since both are selected, it moves them together as a whole. So just a quick shortcut to adding initial boxes down PDFs. If you are adding signature fields, same concept, but there is an extra item you'll need to note. So I'm just going to show you that real quick. So if you are adding signature boxes instead, same concept. On the left side, we're adding those signature boxes. Field. Okay, but if it's a PDF, right? Just a heads up, the signature fields do not show a time and date stamp, okay? For that to happen, you need to manually add this date signed field. Now, this is only a thing or a rule if you are editing a PDF, okay? If you are working with an interactive form that you can just start typing in, right? That the date fields are automatically added to the form. The signature fields, the initial fields, that's all added for you. Okay, this is specifically for PDFs, right? In this situation that I'm needing to add fields to have this signed. So in this case, again, I'm going to switch clients now to add the signature field for my other client. And when I'm adding signature fields, I always need to add the date signed field as well. And then it will autofill the date signed and time. The client does not need to actually fill in this. However, you as the agent need to do this differently if you are sending a PDF. So anywhere with signatures specifically, you need to go ahead and add that date signed field so it will automatically show the date and time that they signed. And that's typically required for compliance for signatures. If you have any questions on that, let me know. The last thing I want to show you guys on editing these PDFs, right? We've talked about so far, these are all fields for your clients to fill out. If they are marked with a color, that means your client will be forced to fill them out when they're filling out the fields or the form. So obviously signature and initial fields are huge for that. But even if there's a text box, let's say you want them to fill out, you know, the section of the offer that talks about personal property conveying, you know, and you want them to talk about their really special chandelier that they don't want conveying. You can actually add text boxes that will require your client to fill that in, okay, as they're signing the form. So as long as it's the text that shows that specific client's color, you can go ahead and drop that and resize the text box right away. Okay, and any text fields that are added like this with that color will make it so that the client has to fill that out when they're signing it. Now let's talk about if this is a field that you need to fill out as the agent. All right, so far I've showed you how to fill out the fields here if they have, or if you want them to fill that out. But if you as the agent need to fill in a field, agent fields are on the bottom left. So you'll see a gray toolbar on the left-hand side. Really, this is the main thing that we switch on the left side toolbar. So pre-fill tools are all these gray boxes, meaning that is for you as the agent. So let's say, you know, I need to add a text box to fill in something that the buyer agent forgot. Or let's say the buyer agent put in my client's name incorrectly, right? I can go ahead and change that by clicking, let's say, the strike through first. Of course, check with your managing broker on any compliance items with surrounding this. All right, but just to show you how this works. First of all, I can add a strike through, and I'm just in the gray toolbar on the left-hand side, selecting a line. And then I could select the text box here, and it'll be gray, meaning that is for me as the agent to fill out. So I could go ahead and put in their correct information here. All right, so just a heads up, these fields right here are all agent fit fields. They will not prompt your client to fill that out, but they'll be able to see these fields. All right, but if you want anything for your client to fill out, that'll be all in standard fields, that very top one. So those are the main two we use on this gray toolbar, just a heads up. Standard fields for your clients, and then pre-fill tools are for you. I always come up to actions as a I always come up to recipient preview as just a final action before I click send. All right, really, we're done here. So I can click on send, but I do like to click on recipient preview to go ahead and see that how my clients would preview that. Karen, can you print out a completed listing agreement so they can sign it? Yes, you can, and I'll show you how to do that. With these steps so far that we're doing, right, this is where we're sending a PDF for signatures, so it won't be from here, but I'll show you that in just a second, Karen. And Maria, yes, so you only have to add initial and signature boxes to the form manually if this is a PDF, right? So if this is an interactive form in Docusign that we just started, we can type in, that will automatically add the initial and signature fields automatically. And I'm going to put in the chat the 30-minute overview. So that's heavily gone over in the Docusign 101 video. But I'm going to put an overview of editing. Actually, here, I'm going to put an overview of the work of the Docusign 101 in the chat. However, I just want to point out as well on the notes that I sent you guys, you will have just that broken down on how to fill out the interactive forms. I'll pull that over right now as well so I can show you. So again, on the notes, so Maria, this will answer your question directly. This one right here, add fillable forms to be signed. Okay, I just highlighted it yellow to make it easier for you to watch after today's class. It's a 10-15-minute video here that'll show you how to pull the form in, that's interactive, and send that for electronic signature when you don't have to manually add in the PDF and the, manually add in the initial and signature box. A lot of talking. All right, so at this point I can just click send. Okay, on the top right, I'm just clicking on send, and that will send the PDF to my clients to be signed. Okay, now weird thing to know about PDFs, just so you guys know. All right, so we added those text fields, right? We add those signature fields and initial fields. Those edits will not show on the form until after my clients have signed it. So let me explain that a little further here. So just a heads up, so once you send it and you come back to the documents tab, I just don't want you to be alarmed that if you click on the PDF version right here, it will not show those extra fields that we added until the form comes back signed by your clients. Okay, so just a heads up on that. Those extra fields we added in the envelope do not actually show on the form in our documents tab until all clients have electronically signed that. So real quick before I let you guys go in 3 minutes here, it's just really important that you understand how signed forms work in Docusign. So if you can stick around for 2 minutes here, I'll show you how signed forms differ, and that the editing process for signed forms is the same as that you just watch for PDFs, so that'll really come in handy. So I'm just going to switch real quick over to my Docusign room that has signed forms. You can just watch on my screen for this, because this feature of Docusign is different than .loop, and I found it confusing because I didn't understand it when I first started using Docusign. So I want you to feel comfortable, obviously, with your signed paperwork that comes back. So explaining this, so let's say that you send your form for electronic signatures to your 2 clients to sign. Okay, you will, once that comes back signed, you will actually see a totally separate copy of the form in your Docusign room with that green signed icon, right? So we talked about briefly this blue form icon, right? The blue form icon will always mean that's the original copy of the form. If it has this blue icon here, form icon, that means if I open it up, it'll be editable, fillable, both. Okay, so you can edit the original, fill in the original, and that'll be marked by this blue form icon. Whereas once the form comes back signed by all parties, it'll come back as a totally separate copy, right? This is the original copy of the form. And here's the same form, but coming back as a totally separate copy showing the signatures. So to pull that up, just to show you the difference here, and when it comes back signed, it will convert the form into a PDF to preserve the signatures. Right now, one more thing to note with signed forms is the signed form will not come back to your Docusign room until all parties have completely signed that. So if you are, let's say there's 2 people signing the form, you'll receive an email notification as the agent anytime that your client signs a form. So let's say you get an email notification that client 1 has signed the form. On that email notification in the attachment, you'll have the signed copy by that one client. However, you will not see the signed copy of the form come back to your Docusign room with the signed icon until all parties have electronically signed it. So until that second party actually goes to sign it, then it will pull that form into your room with that green signed icon. If you guys have any questions on signed forms, let me know. But the idea here when that's coming back as a totally separate PDF is to preserve the signatures so that you can't lose the signatures here, which is great. Right, but if you need to make any edits to signed forms, right, first of all, there are addendums and you can check in with your managing broker on how to do that. But editing signed forms, since it's a PDF, it will be the same exact steps that we just went through for the PDF. I'll show you the notes on the tip video list there, but essentially we would just pull this into an envelope to be able to make edits to any signed forms or any PDFs. And just where that is on here, edit signed documents in Docusign, I will go ahead and highlight that as well. All right, so you know which ones to watch. And I'll share this out in the chat one more time for you guys, but that will edit signed documents. We'll give you just a 10-minute overview on how to do that. All right, I know this was a lot of information to go through. Please just let me know if you have any questions as you're going through this. All right, if you have any obstacles in Docusign, chances are I ran into that as well, and have a good workaround for you guys. So shoot me an email, support@scottleroymarketing.com, attention my name, which is Leah, in the subject line. I'm more than happy to take a look at your account specifically if you are running into any obstacles. And of course, if you need further training on anything, let me know as well, and I'll send over the best tip video for that. But if you're watching this class recorded, these notes will be in the YouTube description below. And if you have further questions, I'll be sticking on, and you can drop those in the chat as well. All right, guys, I hope this helped, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.